Racist cop humiliates black man at airport, then he hears his name announced over the intercom. This story isn't just about a single man being humiliated or a single man changing. It's about the thousands of moments we never see, the assumptions made, the silence endured, the courage to rise, and the humility to learn. It was just another busy morning at Atlanta International Airport. The kind of morning where security lines coiled like snakes, people rushed between terminals with earbuds plugged in and coffees in hand, and the voice over the intercom called out flight numbers like a priest reading names from scripture. Nothing seemed out of place, just the usual organized chaos. Among the travelers moving with purpose was a man who didn't blend into the crowd, at least not in the eyes of some. He walked with a calm presence, a quiet authority. His clothes were crisp, a white shirt tucked into beige slacks, a tailored navy blazer. He rolled a modest black suitcase behind him and held a warm paper cup of coffee in his other hand. His name was Jordan Walker. Jordan wasn't rushing. He didn't need to. His strides were steady, deliberate, like a man used to moving through airports not as a passenger, but as someone who belonged in the inner circle of their rhythm. But someone else noticed him too, Officer Travis Holt, a white police officer stationed near the security checkpoint. Mid-40s, buzz cut, permanently furrowed brow, and the kind of posture that made everyone feel guilty even when they weren't. Travis had been patrolling for hours. He was bored. Looking for something, or someone, to validate the instinct that had kept him suspicious of the world for decades. Then he saw Jordan. Alone. Black. Confident. Calm. To Travis, that confidence read as arrogance. That calmness felt too comfortable. Something about Jordan just didn't sit right with him. He tapped his radio. Possible person of interest, he muttered. Male. African American. Navy blazer. Traveling solo. I'm checking it out. As Jordan reached the TSA line, just about to place his belongings on the conveyor belt, Travis approached. There was no greeting, no smile, just cold, heavy authority. Sir. Step aside, please. Jordan turned, surprised. Is something wrong, officer? We've got random screening. You fit the profile. Jordan raised an eyebrow, not out of anger, but confusion. He reached for the lanyard hanging from his neck, flipping it around to show his identification badge. I work with the airline. I'm needed at the gate. But Travis didn't look at the badge. He didn't care. He grabbed Jordan's carry-on and motioned toward a nearby inspection table. You can tell me all about your work after we make sure you're not a threat. A few passengers slowed their pace to watch. A mother pulled her child close. A man took out his phone and hit record. Jordan stood still, not resisting. But in his stillness was a heavy silence. He didn't argue. He'd seen this before. Too many times. Just in different uniforms, different faces, different locations. But the script remained the same. Travis unzipped the suitcase with unnecessary aggression. Inside were nothing but neatly arranged clothes, a book titled Advanced Aircraft Systems, a pair of pilot's gloves, and a leather-bound notebook with schematics of a cockpit. Looks like some pretty technical stuff here, Travis sneered, holding the book up. It's part of my training, Jordan answered softly. Training for what? Cabin cleaning? The words weren't loud. But they didn't need to be. They cut just the same. Jordan didn't react. He simply watched as his private belongings were put on display for strangers, as the dignity of his profession was reduced to a joke under fluorescent lights. Just then, a young airport employee rushed over, whispering urgently into Travis' ear. That man is on the airline staff list. They called ahead for him. He's authorized for cockpit access. I don't care who called, Travis snapped. Nobody's above a security check. Around them, whispers grew louder. Someone muttered, that's messed up. Another passenger folded his arms and shook his head. But no one stepped in. Not really. Jordan quietly began gathering his things, placing them back in his suitcase, piece by piece. A little girl, no older than 6, approached and handed him the notebook that had slid across the floor. She looked up at him with wide eyes, unsure of what she was seeing, but sensing, somehow, that it wasn't right. "Thank you," Jordan said gently, accepting the book. He didn't look back at Travis. Didn't speak another word. He just walked toward the gates, dignity bruised but unbroken. Travis watched him go, still believing he'd done his job. Still convinced that he'd protected someone. Never questioning why a man like Jordan had to prove anything at all. But what came next would shake that certainty to its core. The airport lounge was a mosaic of muted colors and hushed voices. Screens above displayed arrival times, delays, and gate changes, typical travel noise blending into the soft hum of the overhead announcements. Passengers typed lazily on laptops or dozed off with headphones cocooning them from the outside world. Jordan Walker sat alone in a corner near Gate B-17, a short distance from the jet bridge. He had regained his composure, but the weight of what had happened still clung to him. He wasn't unfamiliar with prejudice. His life, like that of many black professionals, had been punctuated by subtle glances, loaded questions, and moments of quiet degradation. But it still hit differently each time. Today had simply been more public. He sipped his now cold coffee, staring out at the runway. A jet lifted into the sky, a sleek metallic bird cutting through clouds. He knew its weight. He knew its wingspan, its altitude tolerances, its engine's rhythm. Because he had been in its seat, its true seat. The left one. The captain's. Meanwhile, back at the checkpoint, Officer Travis Holt stood near the vending machines, arms crossed, scanning the crowd. His partner, a younger officer named Mendez, approached. "Hey man, you might have messed up," Mendez said, cautiously. Travis frowned. "What do you mean?" "That guy you stopped earlier, the one with the pilot book. They just called for pre-boarding. He's the captain on Flight 627. Travis stared at him blankly. "What?" "They're saying he's not just a pilot. He's the commanding captain. The one flying the plane." Travis's face twitched, just slightly. His jaw tightened. He didn't say a word. He turned, looking toward the departure screens, as if trying to confirm something that felt impossible. Then came the sound. From the overhead speakers, the intercom crackled to life, followed by a smooth, professional voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, now pre-boarding for Flight 627 to San Francisco. We ask that all crew members report to the gate. Captain Jordan Walker, please proceed to the cockpit." A silence fell around the gate. Passengers turned. Some looked toward the checkpoint. And there, Officer Travis stood frozen, as if the air had been sucked out of the room. He turned slowly, eyes scanning toward the gate, toward the very man he had humiliated, treated like a criminal. And there Jordan stood, now rising from his seat, jacket buttoned, cap in hand. As he walked toward the boarding door, a flight attendant met him with a respectful nod and handed him his flight log. Behind her, the first officer stood, a young woman who saluted him with admiration. "Morning, Captain Walker," she said. "They're ready for you up front." "Thank you, First Officer Chen," Jordan replied calmly. But he didn't step through yet. He turned. And for the first time that morning, his eyes met Travis Holt's across the terminal floor. Jordan said nothing. He didn't need to. His uniform spoke. His dignity spoke. His mere presence, whole, unapologetic, spoke volumes. Officer Travis, still stiff with disbelief, found himself shrinking in that moment. His authority, once towering and unquestioned, now felt like paper armor. The man he tried to break had taken the sky from under him. A nearby woman, the one who had recorded the earlier scene, raised her phone discreetly again. Not for drama, but because truth needed witnesses. And somewhere deep inside Travis, something cracked. He wasn't sure if it was shame, or realization, or just the long-delayed collapse of a lie he'd told himself for years, that danger had a skin color, and dignity had a uniform that never included men like Jordan. The cockpit was quiet. Peaceful. A sanctuary high above the clouds. Captain Jordan Walker sat in the left seat, his hands moving with practiced ease, flipping switches, confirming checklists, communicating with air traffic control. Every motion was second nature. Every decision carried weight. He was responsible for over 200 lives. But his mind drifted. Not from distraction, but reflection. The morning had been sharp. Ugly. The sting of Travis Holt's assumptions still lingered, like an old wound reopened. Yet now, 30,000 feet in the air, the pain felt different, transformed. It wasn't rage. It wasn't bitterness. It was purpose. He glanced to his right, where First Officer Chin monitored their course. "Smooth flying today," she said. "Yeah," Jordan replied with a half-smile. "Sky's been kind." Outside, the clouds parted gently as the plane cruised above a sleeping landscape. Below was a world still learning. Still hurting. Still healing. Back on the ground, Officer Travis Holt sat alone in the security office. He hadn't spoken much since Jordan's name was announced. His shift had ended, but he remained, watching surveillance footage on loop. The moment he stopped Jordan. The moment he searched his bag. The moment the intercom said, "Captain Jordan Walker." He replayed the tape again. And again. He zoomed in on Jordan's expression, calm, restrained, dignified. No anger. No threats. Just disappointment. It haunted him. Travis had never thought of himself as a racist. He told himself he was cautious. That his instincts were finely tuned from years of protecting others. But now, that justification felt hollow. He couldn't deny what the world had witnessed, that he'd humiliated a man based solely on skin and suspicion. He opened his phone. Searched Jordan Walker's name. A flood of results: decorated pilot, former Air Force lieutenant, mentor to underprivileged youth, guest lecturer at aviation schools. Not just a pilot. A pioneer. A role model. The kind of man Travis never imagined he'd reduce to a random screening. His chest tightened. Guilt sat like a stone behind his ribs. Because in Jordan, he hadn't seen a man. Not at first. He'd seen a threat. A narrative he'd been fed since childhood, reinforced by his environment, by media, by silence. But now, the silence was gone. The world had seen. And more importantly, so had he. Days later, Travis stood in a small community hall on the west side of Atlanta, outside a youth aviation program Jordan ran on weekends. He wore plain clothes now. No badge. No uniform. Just a man hoping to unlearn what he'd never been taught. He watched from the doorway as Jordan knelt beside a young black boy, showing him how to operate a flight simulator. The boy beamed. Eyes wide with hope, hands clumsy on the controls, heart full of dreams. Travis took a step inside. Jordan noticed him. Their eyes met once again. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then Jordan stood slowly. He didn't smile. But he didn't turn away. "Officer Holt," he said evenly. "Not here in that capacity," Travis replied. "Just Travis." A pause. "I owe you an apology." Jordan studied him, not rushing to respond. Silence was a language he understood well, especially when it said more than words. "What you did," Jordan said, "wasn't new to me. Or rare. But what you do next, that's what I'm waiting to see." Travis nodded. The words stung, but they rang with truth. "I don't want to be the man I was at that checkpoint," he said. "I'm here to listen. To learn. If you'll let me." Jordan looked back toward the boy in the simulator. Then back at Travis. "Then take a seat," he said. "Listen to what flying really means." So Travis did. Not because the moment fixed everything. It didn't. But because for once, he wasn't speaking. He wasn't accusing. He wasn't defending. He was just listening. That day, something small shifted. Not in the headlines. Not in dramatic speeches, but in the quiet exchange between two men, one wronged, the other awakening. And somewhere between the clouds and the tarmac, dignity found its altitude. If this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us share these powerful messages with more people. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story that could change the way you see the world. We release new, true-to-life stories every week, stories that inspire, challenge, and open hearts. Join us in building a community of empathy, awareness, and hope. Thank you for watching and for being part of this journey.